I think I'm entitled.
You want answers.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I woke up this morning, got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
After releasing the bodies of 2 additional hostages overnight, Hamas says it has released all of the remains that it can locate. This means there are still 19 hostage bodies unaccounted for inside Gaza. The group says that significant efforts and specialized equipment are needed to locate the others. U.S. officials saying Hamas is not in violation of the agreement and that Phase 2 will move forward as planned. Part of that next phase will include an international stabilization force that has oversight from the U.S. military, but not American boots on the ground to participate.
No reason for the U.S. military to get involved in Gaza.
No, I don't see that. No, I think we're going to handle it very well. We'll be helping Israel, but we have other countries that are now. You know, we signed, many countries signed, and many of those countries relatively are very strong military powers. And Hamas has no support. See, Hamas had the support of Iran, and now Iran says, don't get us involved.
That's right. We won't be involved anymore. Iran has already had its bell rung a couple of times by the Israeli Defense Forces, hitting inside Iran and also targeting some of their Iranian leaders as they were meeting with Hamas leaders in Qatar. Don't call on us. Call someone else. Now, Iran is not totally out of the game. Let's be clear about that. But they're in disarray, just as Hamas is. You heard Trey Yink said, a report that they did return some more bodies, but say we don't know how long it would take to find the others. I told you that yesterday. I know some are looking at this as an excuse to hide bodies, not give full closure to families. And I don't doubt that that could be happening with Hamas in some cases. But I'm also pretty certain, just by the law of warfare and what we've seen played out, there will be bodies they will never find. Not even a DNA trace. It's a good thing we have DNA available, because one body they shipped and claimed was one of the hostages turned out not to be. You know how they found out? Again, a DNA check. It didn't match any of the DNA they had on file from family relatives of hostages that were taken. Now, whether they were trying to play a little shell game at that point, I don't know. I don't trust Hamas, but at this point, I also recognize the reality of the situation. We may never get back all of the bodies. And I don't think Hamas can be blamed for that fully, except for the fact that they started all of this. Welcome to hour number 1, Larry Connors USA, October 16, 2025. And reminding you, when we're on the air, we are streaming video. You can watch the program. Real easy. Go to NewsTalkSTL Rumble, Facebook, or Twitter. Larry Connors USA, Facebook, or Rumble. And reminding you, everything goes up as a podcast later in case you can't catch it. That would be at LarryConnorsUSA.com, NewsTalkSTL, Larry Connors USA Facebook. So we're there for you. With Larry Connors USA, you are going to get news, analysis, opinion, and education. In fact, as usual, before we wrap each program, you're going to walk away with more knowledge than you have right now as we begin the program. I will promise you that. In our next hour, Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, dealing with the redistricting issue and trying to say black votes need to be protected. She basically said, in so many words, blacks should be considered handicapped. They're not capable of voting. I don't make this stuff up. You're going to hear it from her lips. Maybe not in those exact words, but that's what she's alluding to. we, by federal law, make buildings must be accessible to handicapped people, right? She's saying buildings are not accessible to blacks, so they're being handicapped. What? That's in the next hour. You don't want to miss it. Later this hour, the world is at a tipping point regarding temperature, if you believe the CRAP being pushed. Well, we've got Gregory Wrightstone, a geologist, executive director of the CO2 Coalition, and he's going to set the record straight for you. And before we wrap up this hour, a little fun with Donald Trump and the way he delivers his messages. And it is funny. That's still to come. All right, back to the more focused issues right now. Word coming out, Hamas has offered during the time that they were holding hostages, and this is probably coming from some of the hostages they did release alive. They were offering these hostages who were starving, will give you food or more food if you convert to Islam, if you will turn your back on your faith. No Jew's going to do that. No Christian should do that. And some probably died because they wouldn't. So the peace plan is underway, but there are a lot of parts of it to be put together, and some extremely delicate. Retired four-star General Jack King.
I mean, it really is challenging. Certainly getting Hamas to release all the hostages as to a partial release, that was a major deal in itself. But the second phase is considerably more challenging for a couple of reasons. The primary one is Hamas, to make the deal, said that, yes, they would disarm, yes, they would give up governance. But also, at the press conference in the White House, when the deal was announced, the president made a statement that if Hamas reneged on disarming, then he would permit the IDF, ordered by Prime Minister Netanyahu, to go back in and finish it. I think the International Stabilization Force would try to do that first. But for our audience to understand, peace enforcement forces only work when both sides are cooperating. Mm-hmm. There's been a UN peace enforcement force in Lebanon for 2 decades, and Hezbollah has moved south every single year to do something against Israel, and they've never stopped.
Yeah, and they're not likely to, right? General Jack King, he's right on target with that. Another issue he was willing to discuss as he appeared on Fox News, he is their military analyst, this effort that Zelensky is coming to Trump asking for Tomahawk missiles. These would be able to reach deep past what they currently can and go after additional Russian military targets to try to stop the war. General Jack King.
Putin is saying that's an escalation. That's another false statement. This guy has made one false statement after another. In 22, Putin began to fire hypersonic ballistic missiles against Ukraine, largely civilian targets. He's been firing air-launched and sea-launched cruise missiles against civilian targets and energy infrastructure for the last 2+ years, in addition to those 500 to 600 drones a night that you're seeing there. He's the guy that escalated. All of his targets are largely civilian targets. If the Ukrainians get the Tomahawk missiles, what are they going to use them for? Their number one target will be the Al-Beluga Manufacturing Center for Shahed missiles, built by Ukraine. 20,000 North Koreans are there at that manufacturing center, Brett. It's out of the range of everything they have right now. That'll be target one, but they'll all be military targets. Ukraine is not going to target civilian targets. And what Putin is trying to do with President Trump is the same thing he successfully did with Biden. Threaten escalation if you do X, and there'll be something to come against you as a result of it. And he won that bluff with Biden time and time again.
Yep, because that's what it was. I want to share something with you. My boots on the ground correspondent in Chicago pulled this, Andrew pulled this up for me. You can see it as well. It's at the Babylonian Bee, going back to the Gaza peace deal. It talks about how various news agencies reported on the Trump ceasefire deal. Now, again, it's Babylonian Bee. We're having a little fun here. In MSNBC, Trump's dangerous peace deal hands Gaza over to homophobic extremists. NPR. Greta Thunberg achieves peace in the Middle East. Yeah, right. One American News. Trump surpasses Jesus as greatest peacemaker of all time. CNN. Fascist dictator Trump unilaterally forces peace on Gaza. New York Times. We retract our previous article reporting Trump killed 11 billion Gazan children with his bare hands. This kind of stuff, it's funny, and at the same time, it shows the underbelly sickness of the left. Were those stories reported like that? No, but in some cases, they came pretty damn close. Well, blue cities and states continue to battle ICE deportation efforts. Now a Chicago TV station, talking to a Chicago police officer, got enough to make a case that ICE is using dangerous methods to apprehend illegals.
Some former Chicago law enforcement officials say they are using tactics that the Chicago Police Department outlawed years ago because they were too dangerous. Political reporter Paris Schutz has the very latest.
Yeah, Dawn and Scott, we all saw the images yesterday of federal law enforcement agents sparking a tense situation on Chicago's east side when tear gas was deployed after protesters threw objects. Now, this came after a high-profile raid in the neighborhood and a high-speed vehicle chase down a residential neighborhood, kind of like this one, when officials used a controversial pit maneuver, again, this is file tape, to purposely crash into the side of a suspect's vehicle to force it to stop. Now, pit maneuvers have been outlawed by CPD here, as of other high-speed chase tactics, including boxing in, forcing a collision, ramming, and roadblocking. Sharon Fairley is a law professor at UChicago and former head of the agency now known as COPA. She says these high-risk policies were scrapped because innocent bystanders could get killed and the risk to the community in a dense urban area is too great.
Now, I can't argue.
Where you don't have a highly significant law enforcement reason to be pursuing this person, if it's not like a really serious violent crime that someone's getting away, for example, then it's hard to have the balance with the significant risk that it represents to the public by racing through residential streets at these high speeds.
I cannot disagree with that. That should not be taking place, regardless of who the agents are or who they're pursuing, unless they're pursuing someone who they saw actively and they know actively is a criminal and may be carrying out criminal acts as they continue. High-speed chases just should have come to a halt in all areas. I don't know that ICE is doing that. I don't know how much of this is made up by some of those in Chicago who hate ICE. And, of course, the argument continues. These cities really don't want them. Well, Carolyn Levitt dealt with that question regarding Memphis.
And I noticed a billboard along the highway that said, Memphis welcomes the National Guard. Now, what is your message today to Democrat mayors watching us right now that suffer from TDS and they cannot get Trump out of the way to saving their city, Portland being one of them?
They should do the right thing by their citizens, Brian. They should call the president. They should call the White House and say, we want to work with you. And in Memphis, we are seeing some cooperation. As you saw from that billboard, the people of Memphis are loving this, and they are very grateful for the federal government's efforts. And federal law enforcement is there. We're working alongside local law enforcement. We'd like to see it ramped up a little bit because we want to make progress, and we want to arrest as many bad criminals as we can. Since Monday, I do have some updated statistics from the Homeland Security Council this morning. Since Monday, 153 arrests have been made in Memphis, including 5 gang members. 48 illegal guns have been seized, and 5 missing children have already been recovered.
Good.
Last night, 60 arrests were made, and 21 illegal firearms were seized. Arrests from last night include a suspect wanted for rape of a child under 13, first-degree murder, breaking and entering, aggravated assault, illegal drug possession, and many more. So we continue to see good results coming in through Memphis, and the president is very excited about making Memphis safe again.
That's great. That is absolutely great. And, of course, there are those who still say, well, it's not true. You're manufacturing the story that illegals are getting federal Medicaid and care.
Democrats' proposal would require Medicaid to pay more for emergency care provided to illegal aliens than Medicaid does for American patients who are disabled, elderly, or children. And this bill would have also allowed California to continue a gimmick that funds its Medicaid for illegals program. Those are things that we ended, the Trump administration ended, with the passage and the signage of the One Big Beautiful Bill. And it is an undisputed fact, a fact that under the Biden administration, illegal aliens were absolutely receiving taxpayer-funded health care benefits. In fact, in fiscal year 2024, Medicaid costs for emergency services for illegal immigrants skyrocketed by 142% from the previous year to $9.1 billion. That's $9.1 billion taxpayer dollars that were going to emergency services for illegals. Between President Trump's last full fiscal year under his first administration and Joe Biden's last full fiscal year, Medicaid spending on emergency services for illegal immigrants nearly tripled. There was an increase of 196% between 2020 and 2024. And I have a chart here for you, and I'm more than happy to email it to you.
$9 billion. Could the American people have used that? Yes, they could. Oh, and here's a story. This is a very, very interesting story. Are you listening? Are you listening? The Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs with Department of ICE said, I just got the numbers hot off the press. 175,000 Americans have applied to ICE, to join ICE. Amazing. It's really encouraging to me to see patriots see through the charade of the media. They want to enforce the law. They want to protect our homeland. They saw how during the last 4 years this nation was brought to its knees with this scourge of illegal immigration. They want to protect their communities and where they come from. That's 175,000 Americans going into a federal office saying, I want to sign up and become a member of ICE. Now, in the midst, there might be some who simply want to get inside and become an ICE agent to cause chaos. I will never deny that possibility because we've got so many unvetted illegals in this country. Thank you, Joe Biden. But I am also convinced the majority of that 175,000 are true blood Americans who know that ICE is there for us and they want to join it. They want to be part of the fight. Isn't that uplifting? It certainly should be. Later, we're going to get into the shutdown issue and a little issue that the Democrats really want to ignore. But first, the earth is warming. Oh, my God. It might be too hot for you to go outside right now. It might be too hot to live through the night. Really? Lock and load. Ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
In all these years that Wellington Environmental has been my sponsor, I've never mentioned their duct cleaning services. Allergy season is here, and Wellington crews clean air ducts daily in homes and commercial buildings, also cleaning air handling units and diffusers in commercial facilities. Why? Well, because people will see black dirt and mold on the vents, or they are actually suffering from allergies. Don't be fooled by low-cost duct cleaning providers saying they charge only per vent, because once they get on site, the price will skyrocket. Wellington does not do this, never has. Wellington will give you an estimate, and you say Larry Connors, and immediately you get a 20% discount. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930. 314-644-4930. Make your home and business better, safer with Wellington. Be well with Wellington. Back pain? Follow me to Esquire Sports Medicine, where they've got your back. Esquire is the oldest sports medicine clinic in St. Louis. Dr. Draghi and his team of chiropractors can get you back to work, back to life without the pain. New patients usually scheduled within 24 hours. 314-644-0885. 644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. Another day must be another roofer in town. And John Beal and I were talking. He said, every time you turn around, there's a new roofing company. Many of them have no idea what they're doing, and the statistics show that many will be out of business within 2 to 5 years. Who are you going to call to help you then? You need to remember only one name, John Beal. John Beal Roofing. You have a problem, he can take care of it. And we'll be here for you. John Beal Roofing. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. The offer. St. Louis cannot stop talking about being held over due to popular demand. Right now, renewal by Anderson. Buy any window or door. Get the next one 50% off. Plus, you could qualify for 0 interest, no payments for 18 months. Renewal by Anderson is the full-service window and door replacement division of Anderson. You've trusted that name for more than 122 years. And our exclusive FiberX frames, 200% stronger than vinyl. Anderson products are also proven to increase your home value by at least 15%. Don't miss out. Schedule your complimentary consultation today at rbastl.com or call 877-WINDOWS, 877-WINDOWS. Renewal by Anderson, award-winning quality, stronger windows, smarter investment.
This is News Talk STL.
Run with a railroad when their backs are turned. Run with a railroad when their backs are turned. Run with a railroad. Get out of their sight. When the engine turns, then you gotta move on, and you gotta move on at night.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
CNN puts it right in front of you, and this is frightening. This is frightening. They're quoting from a Global Systems Institute, and he says the planet is grappling with a new reality. We're looking at widespread death of coral reefs, severe heat waves, floods, droughts, wildfires, as humans burn fossil fuels, ratchet up temperatures. The humans are destroying the Earth. Let's back off here a moment. Gregory Wrightstone we have on often. He's a geologist, executive director of the CO2 Coalition, best-selling author of A Very Convenient Warming. Welcome back, sir. Glad to have you with us.
Oh, good to be back with you, Larry. Yeah, I think they left out increasing toenail fungus, though. They forgot that one.
You're right.
You might as well just throw that in there.
Well, I'm going to look through here. No, you're right. Every day the sky is falling, and how many times have they moved the goalposts?
Oh my goodness! It seems like every other day they're doing that. They're having because their predictions of terrible catastrophe they're just not they're not showing up. And in fact, this report that we just looked at here, it was just crazy that they said it was because the coral reefs were disappearing at an alarming rate. Well, that's just factually incorrect. And in fact, I think the booker that got you my information there for this one is I included a graph there of the record. What they're claiming is worst ever coral bleaching at the Great Barrier Reef. Well, that's just absolutely terribly false. They've been doing these surveys of the entire reef. They started in 1985. And the end of the year 2024 had the highest level of coral cover for the Great Barrier Reef ever recorded. It's declined a little bit today, but bear in mind when they talk about bleaching, it's when a coral bleaches, it does it for a number of reasons. It might be cooling, it might get a little bit warm, might be pollution. It's the color of the coral or the phytoplankton that live within the coral polyp, and they provide the color. And when things go bad with the reef, they spit it out and they turn white. But then that doesn't mean they're dying. And then they just bring new critters to live within the coral polyp. It might change the color, but this is a natural process. And we have some of the highest coral cover of the Great Barrier Reef. And the other interesting thing, if we look at, is just a 2 degrees centigrade increase. That'd be almost 4 degrees Fahrenheit. the Great Barrier Reef has been documented that an increase in growth rate of the coral by 50% with a 2 degrees centigrade increase in water temperature.
50%?
50% increase in the growth rate, which is it's completely opposite of what they're talking about. And bear in mind, too, the hottest oceans on Earth are what's called the Coral Triangle, Indonesia, and those islands in that area of the South Pacific. Hottest water anywhere in the world. It's also got the greatest diversity and abundance of corals and ocean fishes of anywhere in the world. And it's much, much, much warmer than the Great Barrier Reef. The Great Barrier.
I was going to say my scuba diving has been limited to Caribbean and some of that area. Not in the Great Barrier Reef. I don't like the sharks, but I have seen, and of course, every time we're scuba diving, we don't want to be touching or breaking off the coral. And I'll see some brilliant coral, and I'll see some white as white. And I go back the next year in that same area, they're back to their color again.
Yep. And but again, the key here is it's very, very, very well documented. The corals do better the hotter it goes, the faster they grow, the better they do, and it's really amazing. In fact, the southern part of the Great Barrier Reef is the coldest part because remember it's in the southern hemisphere. So as you move south, you're approaching closer and closer to Antarctica. So the corals at the south end of the Great Barrier Reef are growing half as fast as the ones to the north.
You're listening
where it's warmer.
You're listening, Gregory Wrightstone, geologist, executive director, CO2 Coalition, best-selling author of A Very Convenient Warming. I want to come back to the title and that book in a moment, but with all due respect, sir, pointing out your credentials, this report about the death of the coral reefs is conducted and documented by 160 scientists around the world.
Yeah, well, we don't do science with a vote. We don't do consensus science. What they're doing is getting rid of the scientific method, is where we test, validate, come up with a theory, and if the facts don't fit the theory, then you change your theory.
Yeah, it sounds like COVID all over again.
Exactly. And so they need to silence people like me and my colleagues at the CO2 Coalition because this is very inconvenient data for them that shows exactly how wrong they are.
Well, you brought up CO2 again, and again, that is one of the things they claim is the issue.
Yeah, it is. They're claiming that it is true that the use of fossil fuels are adding lots of carbon dioxide or CO2 to the atmosphere. That's true. But the other part that's true is that it's hugely beneficial. The increase of CO2 is driving plant growth from the near polar regions to the equator. Every single ecological niche on Earth is what they call greening. It's grass, forests are expanding, deserts are shrinking, and we need to celebrate just the huge benefits we're seeing from increased CO2. Mainly, it's crop production. We're seeing crop production outpace population growth. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a really good thing.
And I want to come back that in a moment, but since we're on the CO2 thing, your book, A Very Convenient Warming, How Modest Warming and More CO2 Are Benefiting Humanity. And, of course, that book title comes off of Gore's book and his claim that an inconvenient warming. I mean, come on, help us understand this.
Well, Al Gore only had one class when he was at university. He got a D in it in science, one science class. So he's hardly qualified to be. But he made claims that by the year 2017, we could have summers free of ice at the northern polar ice at the North Pole.
2017.
Which, again, we're actually. Yeah, and so what we see is now ice cover is about the same as what it was 13 years ago. It's not decreasing; it increases and it decreases, but there's nothing alarming about it.
Well,
and even if the entire northern polar ice cap melted, it would do nothing to increase sea level.
Well, forgive
That's
me,
because
sir.
that's ice floating on the water.
Yeah, forgive me, sir. If 2017, my math is never good. I mean, I spent the longest 3 years of my life in the second grade on math, so I think we're past 2017, right? By considerable margin.
Yeah.
Now,
Dad, nabbit.
Yep.
You're bringing up all this inconvenient information for them.
They also point out in their report radical global acceleration of solar power and electric vehicles and batteries and heat pumps. And once they're in place, then we'll have cheaper and better and less polluting activities.
Yeah, that's not quite the case. What we've got here are creation of solar panels and wind turbines. And don't you dare call them farms either. They're not farms. There's nothing you call like. I grew up on my granddad's farm.
Yeah.
And these solar panels and the wind turbines are environmentally unfriendly.
Yep.
In fact, according to the UN, endangered species, the greatest threat to endangered species is loss of habitat. Well, what's their solution to solve a non-existent climate crisis? Pave over grasslands, cut down forests, put up wind turbines all over the place, kill whales offshore with wind turbines. We want to kill they have to pull up for these huge solar industrial scale facilities out in the Southwest. They had to dig up all the tortoises. There were a lot of tortoises in that area, and they had to dig them out of their burrows and transport them someplace else.
Now, in our last minute here, they have coming up in Brazil in a month the UN climate conference meeting, and they're all going to be meeting on that. But they were cutting down much of the rainforest to create more highways to get into the area where they're holding their conference. I don't understand how they can justify cutting down some of the rainforest, not much of it, but large swaths, just for a highway and more vehicles.
Exactly. They have no shame. The hypocrisy is rampant with them. And so go ahead, drive your electric vehicles, and do all that. Put up solar. What's going to happen? Going to net zero using solar and wind and electric vehicles will drive up your cost of electricity significantly. We see it where they're already doing that in California and New Jersey.
One other thing in the last 15 seconds for you, since you grew up in a farm, you do know that milk doesn't come at the grocery store in a box or in a jug, right? You know where milk comes from.
That is correct. It came from my granddad milking the cows.
Hey, Greg, thank you again. Always pleasure to have you on board.
Thank you.
Gregory writes on the book, A Very Convenient Warming. Now, coming up, the shutdown, the things they don't want to talk about, ever.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
For 100 years, Tom Shaw Realtor is helping folks buy or sell, but also helping the community. He wanted this paid commercial to promote the Tom Shaw Walk for Alzheimer's, Sunday, October 12. More details at shawrealtors.com. You want the best place to watch baseball or any sport and be able to enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys? Lit Cigar Lounge. Lit has so many events each month. You need to constantly check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook. You don't want to miss anything. Plus, you can order food from Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, delivered within minutes right to your table. By the way, we're in the season for great patio dining. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta has your table waiting. Listen up. The offer St. Louis can't stop talking about being held over by popular demand. Right now, Renewal by Anderson. Buy any window or door, get the next one 50% off. Plus, you might get 0 interest, no payments for 18 months. This is Renewal by Anderson, the full-service window and door replacement division of Anderson. That's a name you've trusted more than 122 years. Our exclusive FiberX frames, 200% stronger than vinyl. And remember, Anderson products increase your home's value by at least 15%. So make sure you take advantage of the offer while it's still being held over. Schedule your complimentary consultation at rbastl.com. 877-WINDOWS. 877-WINDOWS. Renewal by Anderson. This is award-winning quality, stronger windows, smarter investment. Back pain? Follow me to Esquire Sports Medicine, where they've got your back. Esquire is the oldest sports medicine clinic in St. Louis. Dr. Draghi and his team of chiropractors can get you back to work, back to life without the pain. New patients usually scheduled within 24 hours. 314-644-0885. 644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com.
This is News Talk STL. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
That is a very big point. That's Jared Egan. He's with the White House National Energy Dominance Council Executive Director. And Trump announcing today India is no longer going to purchase Russian oil. That's a major victory in the effort to pressure Putin to end the war in Ukraine. And he added, and I'm reading direct from his quote, "I was not happy that India was buying oil, and the Indian Prime Minister assured me today they will not be buying oil from Russia. That is a big step." Now, a spokesman for the Indian embassy, not immediately responding to requests, but if true, it would amount to major de-escalation of U.S. and India tensions, all that surfacing after the U.S. slapped a 50% tariff on that country because it continued to buy from Russia and buy its oil. And that, of course, meant more money for the Russian machinery to kill and attack Ukraine and extend the war. And Trump and Modi, the India Prime Minister, will be meeting at a summit in Malaysia later this month. And it's clear that at this point that tariff was big. Trump has used these tariffs and these pressure points, just like if someone's trying to take you down just using their finger. They know exactly what to put pressure on your body, and it will make you almost drop to your knees. And then they'll look for a way to help them get out from under it. And turn around and say, "I'm going to do this to you, but here's an option." And again, for all of the concern about, as we were speaking with Gregory Wrightstone, about all the concern that we're killing the world with our oil and gas, we're going to continue doing it, as we should. But there's also this. The UN is voting on a first ever global tax trade. This is meant to punish emissions from cargo ships. They can't run on a battery all the way across the ocean. They got to use fuel. Yeah, there'll be some emissions, but now they're going to put a tax punishment up on them. Well, that will shut down a lot of them, or the shipments themselves, if it's imposed and enforced by the UN. That would mean that countries that want to do trade with us, are they going to pay a bigger tax? Are they going to find it? And why are the UN members even considering this? Well, because they got some lefties in there that can just kind of push this kind of crap around, and they'll find somebody willing to bite into it. I'll tell them right now, it will not taste great for them. All right, we're talking about the shutdown. We continue to go into the shutdown, and of course, each side is blaming the other. But the bottom line is, truly, it is still Chuck Schumer's shutdown. We know that he has to do this to protect his political collateral, because he knows that if not, he might be primaried by someone like AOC. But he's also looking for a way to extend his career while also punishing Americans. I mean, he wouldn't admit to that, but that's what he's doing. And we know where the answer is going to come. Exactly when, we don't know. I still say it's going to happen before Thanksgiving as we get closer and folks are worried about, will I be able to travel by plane to grandma's house because air traffic controllers, not enough of them available to handle the traffic. I think that'll be the pressure point. But I'm going to share this from AOC and Bernie as they're talking to, which reporter was this? One of their lovelies. CNN Caitlin Collins, asking, what would it take for you to sign off to open the government?
What does that need to look like before you would vote to reopen the government? Or is a commitment from the White House and Republicans enough?
No doubt.
I mean,
Mr. President, is a very honest man. And if he says something, man, you could take it to the bank.
So you're saying his word is not enough?
Bankruptcy court.
His word? No.
So what do you need to see? What commitments from?
I think we need to see ink on paper. I think we need to see legislation. I think we need to see votes. And I think we need to see these things pass on the floor of the House and the Senate and signed by President Trump. I don't accept IOUs. I don't accept pinky promises. That's not the business that I'm in.
AOC. No pinky promise? We can't do a pinky promise? Well, you got it done in the House. That's done. It's the Senate where the issue is. That's why Bernie Sanders, whether, I'm with AOC. We're standing together. I'm progressive left. Trying to act like he's more left than AOC. Trying to protect his political collateral and his territory because he knows if he doesn't, they'll come after him. Now, I'm going to share this with an opinion piece on Fox. I always give you the source. I never try to pull anything past you. But this piece by Mahek Cook. Let me shut off this audio. I didn't know I had audio on it. Hang on a second. I'm not interested in you. I'll do it by myself. Thank you very much. Mahek Cook, I should say, is saying Trump is using a government shutdown to do something no president has ever done. Basically making it a pivotal moment. He's swinging the axe at the bloated Democrat-run bureaucracies that have taken trillions from hardworking Americans for decades. Nancy Pelosi and her party claiming chaos. Trump is turning the crisis into clarity, freezing $26 billion in blue state pork, halting green energy pet projects, directing departments to prepare for reduction in force, and that's been underway. And now it's being challenged. You got unions representing some of the employees say he can't do that. I'm not sure that he can't do that. And I think he will. But in the meantime, some of these folks that are on the sidelines, they don't know if they'll have a job when they come back. So a shutdown can have difficult, disastrous results. It can. Even Bernie Sanders admitted to this back in 2013.
The truth is that shutting down the government is a serious and dangerous action.
Yes.
That we must do everything possible to prevent. Shutting down the government would impact tens of millions of our fellow Americans who would be unable to access government services. It would severely impact federal employees who would not get the paychecks they expected. It would also have a very significant impact on our armed forces. In other words, we must do everything that we can to prevent a government shutdown.
And he was directing his remarks at Chuck Schumer, because Chuck Schumer was leading a lot of that. What led to it? Well, the Senate declined to pass the bill with measures to delay the Affordable Care Act. That was part of it. So we had, during that time, 800,000 federal employees indefinitely furloughed, another 1.3 million required to report to work without knowing when they would get their money. So he knows what can happen. And if he looks around, he sees it is happening again. Back in 2013, he was all about, we don't want to do this, we don't want to do this. But he is not addressing the one that is the stopgap right now, and that is Chuck Schumer. And I know Chuck Schumer is probably desperately looking for an off-ramp, because as this begins to collapse around him, if you're in the building that's wired for demolition, get out. Get out. But Chuck can't do that. I will admit that I have sometimes made fun of the way President Trump makes remarks that I think you need to be edited, sir, with all due respect. There's some things you say. I'm not talking about the language you say or whatever you say. It's just that, can you condense it? Well, I hear, who out there said that? Said, Larry, you can condense your program. No, you go away. It's my turn. But Trump does have a way of talking that sometimes it's not word salad like Kamala. He makes a point, he just drills it down and drills it down and drills it. I got it. Well, coming up, one of the latest examples, and comedian Shane Willis imitating Trump. Listen and enjoy that story when we continue.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
The Napoli heritage of fine dining continues with Napoli Kirkwood. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. So add that to Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C, and don't forget about Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district, Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, plus now, open, Napoli Kirkwood.
This is Larry Connors, USA. Larry Connors, USA.
It's the preservation of something there's nothing like it. To me, there's nothing like the White House. Even after I won the first night, I went up and I'm standing in the residential hallway with Melania, and where I'm looking into the Lincoln bedroom. I said, that was a surreal experience. I'm saying, do you believe this? We're in the White House, and that's the Lincoln bedroom, and it takes a while to get used. I'm still not probably really used to it. It's just a special place. What can I say? So we have to take care of it.
Yep. And that was pretty clear, but the way he said, I'm in the bedroom, it's a special place, really big, special place. So comedian Shane Willis, back after Trump was in office the first time, was taking note of this and trying to parody him to some extent. And I don't care how hardcore Trump supporter you are, this is funny.
What a big room this is. I walked in here, I said, wow, what a big room.
That is Shane Gillis, trying to imitate Trump. And yeah, he does do stuff like that. Let's do it again for fun.
What a big room this is. I walked in here, I said, wow, what a big room.
Look, you got to have some humor at any point, right? We have right now a point that I had made earlier while we're trying to deal with the government employees and so forth. and dealing with ICE. I mean, we got so many things on the radar screen. If you blink, you're going to miss something. That's why I feel like on this program sometimes, I mean, I do everything I can to try to get everything in front of you and trying to make sure you learn more than you knew when you started, and that I can accomplish, but there is still so much more. I need to turn Larry Connors USA into a 4-year university and collect your money while I'm at it. No, I'm more than willing to give it to you for free with the help of our sponsors, which reminds me, I really encourage you, when you have a need for what they provide, use our sponsors. They're there because they support 100% patriotic radio, and that's what we are. And while you're doing that, you got the Illinois Governor Pritzker saying, you know what we're going to do with these ICE agents? I think what we're going to do is, and he mentioned this yesterday, but it's been expanded a little bit, they're going to be prosecuted. He's going to prosecute ICE agents for carrying out the job they were told to do. Suddenly they're concerned about, quote, law and order in the Democrats. They know, again, they're on the wrong side of it. So all they can do is, as Pritzker said, we're going to the attorney generals to see how we can go about this to make sure that these ICE agents follow the law, not only in Chicago, but all across the nation. Said the president has created a dangerous time for us, mayhem on the grounds of our state. And yet I had for you yesterday, a Chicago resident said, Trump is protecting us. Pritzker doesn't know what he's talking about. He's surrounded by 150 guards and living in a mansion. The woman knows what she speaks. Coming up in our next hour, we're going to focus on exactly how we're going to get around the shutdown, or with it, and when, if that's going to happen, and the illegals on the pad.
You can hear podcasts of this program at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.
John Beal Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call John Beal to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Beal has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Beal. You and I might have something in common, back pain. I can tell you where I go for help, Esquire Sports Medicine, the spine of St. Louis. They can put athletes back on the field so they can clearly help us. Esquire Sports Medicine, hands-on chiropractic help on Big Bend, just north of Highway 40. 314-644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. Great patio season to enjoy any of the Cafe Napoli locations. How about the Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield? Enjoying coal-fired pizza, nothing else like it. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. A few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, where you can enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys. Check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook for details, plus gift cards for friends. I'll see you at Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. It's that time of season when families, businesses are moving. For local or long distance, I endorse McGuire Moving. Get a date set soon before the schedules are booked. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. McGuire is constantly giving back to our veterans, such as Support Dogs for Our Brave. So with McGuire, you're getting excellent service and helping our vets. McGuireMoving.com. So many times, Vincent's Jewelers has helped me surprise someone special. Vincent's locally owned can do the same for you, and you don't have to break the bank to get something really nice, maybe even customized. The smile you're going to get back from that special someone, priceless. Check VincentsJewelers.com every day because new items are arriving and there are special deals. Vincent's, my only jeweler. VincentsJewelers.com. VincentsJewelers.com. Larry Connors here. Is your home ready for the chilly months ahead? Renewal by Andersen has a buy one, get one 50% off window event. And if you qualify, 18 months, no payments, zero interest. Not sure if it's the right time? Renewal makes it easy. No obligation window inspection. Just find out what new windows might cost when you're ready. No pressure, no hassle. And remember, no one but Renewal by Andersen can offer Fibrex, the proprietary window frame material, 200% stronger than vinyl. Means durability, efficiency, beauty that lasts every season. What are you waiting for? Call 877-WINDOWS or visit rbastl.com and get your consultation. Renewal by Andersen. Superior products, exceptional service.
This is News Talk STL.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
What does that need to look like before you would vote to reopen the government? Or is a commitment from the White House and Republicans enough?
No doubt.
I mean,
Mr. President, is a very honest man. And if he says something, man, you could take it to the bank.
So you're saying his word is not enough? Bankruptcy court.
His word? No.
So what do you need to see? What commitments from?
I think we need to see ink on paper. I think we need to see legislation. I think we need to see votes. And I think we need to see these things pass on the floor of the House and the Senate and signed by President Trump. I don't accept IOUs. I don't accept pinky promises. That's not the business that I'm in.
Yeah, what business are you in? You're involved in shutting down the government. You're scaring Chucky Schumer. But she says, I'm not doing that. That's a farce. Well, we'll break it down for you because that's exactly what's happening. But she wants you to believe I'm not pulling Chuck's strings, nor am I threatening to kick him to the curb. Right. That woman would walk over Chuck Schumer as fast as she could if he fell down. Believe me. Welcome to hour number 2, Larry Connors USA. We're here every Monday through Friday for you from 6 to 8 p.m. When we're on the air, we are streaming video. You can watch the program live. How do you do that? Well, you do it by going to Larry Connors USA Rumble, Facebook, or Twitter. Or you do it by going to News Talk STL, Facebook, Rumble, or Twitter, and reminding you that after we finish each program, we do put it up as a podcast, available at News Talk STL, LarryConnorsUSA.com, and Larry Connors USA Facebook. And reminding you, if you have a phone in your hand, you can listen from anywhere. Anywhere. One of our advertisers, Renewal by Andersen, their chief brand sales manager is currently somewhere in Italy, Monaco, wherever. And I reminded him, I said, you can hear the program from there, hear your great spots right there in Italy. Get all the Italians involved in listening. And with Larry Connors USA, you have news, analysis, opinion, and education. You're going to leave every hour with more knowledge and information than you have right now. I will promise you that. And we've got a lot more information to add what we presented in the first hour. Some things are repeated, but some need to be repeated. And in some cases, I just can't put it all in 1 hour, so it has to carry over. I have to tell you that when I finish each day, I look at the fact that with Jerome's help, we have hit at least a single. That's the minimum. That's our standard minimum. Maybe a double, a triple, and many are grand slams. Feel really good about when we walk away. And others, I think back, and this is not Jerome's fault. It'd be me. I think I didn't do that exactly the way I wanted to. So I'm going to try harder. We're going to try harder all the time. Such as somebody who needs to try a little harder would be Bernie Sanders, because back in 2013, right now, while he's blaming Trump for all the shutdown and saying Republicans are wrong, back in 2013, again, at that point, it was the Democrats behind it. And he was even calling out Chuck Schumer, talking about how disastrous a shutdown in 2013 was.
The truth is that shutting down the government is a serious and dangerous action that we must do everything possible to prevent. Shutting down the government would impact tens of millions of our fellow Americans who would be unable to access government services. It would severely impact federal employees who would not get the paychecks they expected. It would also have a very significant impact on our armed forces. In other words, we must do everything that we can to prevent a government shutdown.
Yeah, that all makes sense. And, of course, at that time, they were trying to blame the Republicans. And it worked. It got the Republicans to buckle down, basically bend their knee to them. But he was also blaming, in part, at that time, Schumer. Not directly, but you read between the lines, it was. Barack Obama was president at that time. Now, speaking about where we are now, yeah, it would hurt our troops. But Trump's made it very clear, and Secretary of War Hegseth, working with other members of the administration, have found the money to make sure our troops do not miss a single payday, and other true essential workers. In that 2013 shutdown, something like 800,000 federal employees were indefinitely furloughed. Another 1.3 million still had to show up for work, but they didn't know when they would ever get their money. How would you like that? We want you to come to work. Am I going to get a check this time? Can't really guarantee that's going to happen. In the Trump administration, the first term, we had a shutdown lasting 35 days, December 22nd, 2018, through January 25, 2019, right through the Christmas and into the New Year. 35 days, the longest shutdown in U.S. history. The second and final government shutdown involving furloughs during the first presidency of Donald Trump. So for those out there who want to say, hey, he's back in power and he's doing it again, he's made every concession they can. But riddle me this. Are you willing to have the government reopen and everybody come back with $5 billion attached to your tax bill that will pay for everything from feminizing women in Bangkok or something like that to watching out for the desert locust or something? Really? All right, updating where we stand right now with the Middle East. The key part was, of course, to return all living hostages, which they did, but there is also part of the plan that we want all bodies to return. And Trey Yinks picks up the story.
After releasing the bodies of 2 additional hostages overnight, Hamas says it has released all of the remains that it can locate. This means there are still 19 hostage bodies unaccounted for inside Gaza. The group says that significant efforts and specialized equipment are needed to locate the others. U.S. officials saying Hamas is not in violation of the agreement and that Phase 2 will move forward as planned. Part of that next phase will include an international stabilization force that has oversight from the U.S. military, but not American boots on the ground to participate.
No reason for the U.S. military to get involved in Gaza.
No, I don't see that. No, I think we're going to handle it very well. We'll be helping Israel. But we have other countries that are now. You know, we signed, many countries signed, and many of those countries relatively are very strong military powers. And Hamas has no support. See, Hamas had the support of Iran, and now Iran says, don't get us involved.
Stay away. We don't want to be hit again by Israel. We don't want to be involved in anything at this point. Hamas was one of their biggest terrorist proxy groups, and they're decimated now. As I've been pointing out in the commentary today, that really, not today, yesterday, that we still really don't have peace inside Gaza because Hamas militants still trying to control Gaza, and they're going after, they figure, folks who were sympathetic to the Jewish cause and basically sympathetic to saving their lives, so they're going out to kill them. And they're going after various clan members throughout Gaza and the Strip because they fear that they will try to get control and then Hamas will really be cut out. But every killing that's happening right now in Gaza is not involving Israelis. It's Hamas killing innocent civilians in some cases, killing members of clans or families they fear might try to kill them, or members of those clans killing Hamas members. This is a generational war. And the blood spilled continues. Now, what about the peace plan? And part of it involving getting the bodies back. Retired 4-star General Jack King.
I mean, it really is challenging. Certainly getting Hamas to release all the hostages as to a partial release, that was a major deal in itself. But the second phase is considerably more challenging for a couple of reasons. The primary one is Hamas, to make the deal, said that yes, they would disarm, yes, they would give up governance. But also at the press conference in the White House, when the deal was announced, the president made a statement that if Hamas reneged on disarming, then he would permit the IDF, ordered by Prime Minister Netanyahu, to go back in and finish it. I think the International Stabilization Force would try to do that first. But for our audience to understand, peace enforcement forces only work when both sides are cooperating. There's been a UN peace enforcement force in Lebanon for 2 decades, and Hezbollah has moved south every single year to do something against Israel, and they've never stopped.
Never stopped. Never stopped. I want to share a little light point with you from the Babylonian Bee. I covered some of this in the preceding hour. This was called to my attention by my boots on the ground in Chicago, Andrew. Thank you, sir. Because I've got so many things coming at me. I'm trying to drink out of a fire hose doesn't even begin to describe it. But I had overlooked this, and I'm glad he pulled it up. Babylonian Bee, satire. None of this is real, but it sounds like the way they do things, it would probably be true in their mind. Trump's Gaza peace deal. MSNBC said, this is, again, a fake title, Trump's dangerous peace plan hands Gaza over to homophobic extremists. NPR, Greta Thunberg achieves peace in the Middle East. Good Lord. One American News stating, again, according to Babylonian Bee, Trump surpasses Jesus as the greatest peacemaker of all time. BuzzFeed, we tried 28 different kinds of Gaza humanitarian aid food, and it tanked from worst to best. Did it? CNN. Fascist dictator Trump. A fascist dictator Trump. Trump is a guy who just signed a peace deal making the world safer for millions of Jews. But the way CNN, according to Babylonian Bee, would do their headline, fascist dictator Trump unilaterally forces peace on Gaza. That's a good dictator, right? BBC, multiple people stabbed in London. ESPN, top WNBA stars react to Trump's ceasefire deal. Yeah, that would be something that would be really interesting to me. Daily Wire, this ceasefire brought to you by ExpressVPN. The New York Post, come on, baby, light my ceasefire. They're humorous, and again, it's Babylonian Bee. It's farce, and yet it has at its center some of those news organizations, quote, news organizations, are not too far off of that kind of foolish statement on some of the things they do. One of the big deals facing us right now, Zelensky is coming to Trump again, and he wants Tomahawk missiles that could reach deep inside Russia. And there's a legitimate reason for questioning them and wanting them and how much he might. And Trump has indicated if Putin does not bring this to an end, I might well do that. General Jack King again explaining where Russia stands. And that begins with Putin the liar.
Putin is saying that's an escalation. That's another false statement. This guy has made one false statement after another. In 22, Putin began to fire hypersonic ballistic missiles against Ukraine, largely civilian targets. He's been firing air-launched and sea-launched cruise missiles against civilian targets and energy infrastructure for the last 2+ years, in addition to those 500 to 600 drones a night that you're seeing there. He's the guy that escalated. All of his targets are largely civilian targets. If the Ukrainians get the Tomahawk missiles, what are they going to use them for? Their number one target will be the Albaluga Manufacturing Center for Shahed missiles built by Ukraine. 20,000 North Koreans are there at that manufacturing center, Brett. It's out of the range of everything they have right now. That'll be target one, but they'll all be military targets. Ukraine is not going to target civilian targets. And what Putin is trying to do with President Trump is the same thing he successfully did with Biden. Threaten escalation if you do X, and there'll be something to come against you as a result of it. And he won that bluff with Biden time and time again.
Time and time again. And keep in mind, Putin even said the other day, well, back when he met Trump in Alaska, if you'd been president, we would not have gone into Ukraine. Now, he could be playing to Trump's ego, playing to the report that Biden basically let it happen because Obama did. Remember, Russia took over Crimea during the Obama years. And what did we do? What did Obama do to help? Sent blankets. So we basically said, okay, you can have it. So then they decided, now we got Biden's surrogate, dumb Biden right behind him, coming in after 4 years of Trump, and we had to knuckle back down, and now they're back in-house, so let's go continue. And they did. So whether or not Putin meant it when he said, you know, if you'd been in office, we would not have done this, I think truly it's a fact. They would not have done it. What do you think? Coming up, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Let me rephrase that. Liberal Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson commenting black Americans are disabled when it comes to voting. What? Lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
I want want to tell you more about Wellington Environmental's dustless blasting services. Wellington can blast paint, grease, graffiti, even stripes off parking lots. Truly amazing and powerful. But can Wellington blast something more sensitive? Yes, Wellington can use dry ice to blast soot and odors off smoke-damaged surfaces right after a fire. Currently, Wellington uses dry ice to clean mold off wood inside a home. Why? Well, dry ice immediately disappears, turns into a vapor. That means no mess to clean up, no damaged surfaces. You need to check with Wellington, always researching and practicing with new, better, faster, safer equipment and products for you. And it's very easy to schedule an estimator for your next project. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 644-4930. Be well with Wellington. McGuire Moving is silver certified, which means they are great at relocating senior citizens. In fact, McGuire is a household name because McGuire understands the stress involved when moving older adults. So if you or family members need help moving, I highly recommend McGuire Moving. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. Get a free in-home estimate. McGuireMoving.com. Another day must be another roofer in town. And John Beal and I were talking. He said, every time you turn around, there's a new roofing company. Many of them have no idea what they're doing, and the statistics show that many will be out of business within 2 to 5 years. Who are you going to call to help you then? You need to remember only one name, John Beal. John Beal Roofing. You have a problem, he can take care of it. And we'll be here for you. John Beal Roofing. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. Back pain? Follow me to Esquire Sports Medicine, where they've got your back. Esquire is the oldest sports medicine clinic in St. Louis. Dr. Draghi and his team of chiropractors can get you back to work, back to life without the pain. New patients usually scheduled within 24 hours. 314-644-0885. 644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com.
This is News Talk STL.
There's 1,000 miles in 18 hours. I got a double drive down southbound 35. I got the hammer down, Detroit made 525, pushing my ass right down that line. And that smell of burning diesel fuel just tells me that I'm back out on the road.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I guess I'm thinking of it, of the fact that remedial action, absent discriminatory intent, is really not a new idea in the civil rights laws. And my kind of paradigmatic example of this is something like the ADA. Congress passed the Americans with Disabilities Act against the backdrop of a world that was generally not accessible to people with disabilities. And so it was discriminatory in effect because these folks were not able to access these buildings. And it didn't matter whether the person who built the building or the person who owned the building intended for them to be exclusionary. That's irrelevant.
That is Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. Now, you might think she's talking about protection for handicapped people. Well, she absolutely set them on edge with those remarks. The Americans Disability Group absolutely all over her because of those remarks. What did she say? What was the issue? She was arguing that just as we had to have building ramps, street ramps, things of that prepared for the handicapped, which certainly we're glad to have, the American Disabilities Act, she's claiming that black voters also faced disabilities. You want to explain that to me? No, you can't do that. You can't do that because it's a lie. It's just another fabrication. It's using the race card again, basically trying to say black, not only could blacks not to be smart enough to get a ID, but they can also not be smart enough to figure out how to get up the steps to go vote. Now, if they're handicapped and they're trying to get into a voting poll area, a voting booth, and they need help, well, then that, yes, we have to do that. But that's not what she was arguing. And that is why she has absolutely upset the American Disabilities Group, because they say you have really taken things out of context. And she has. You want more details? Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. I have it for you because she is arguing right here. Reference the Voting Rights Act is equivalent race-based redistricting that's underway now, gerrymandering, however you want to call it, but basically redistricting will again make black voters, handicapped black voters, I don't mean they are physically handicapped or mentally, it's just will prevent them from being to vote. I agree. I get mixed up in it, trying to understand it. Let's go back to her and see if she can clarify anything.
Congress said the facilities have to be made equally open to people with disabilities if readily possible. I guess I don't understand why that's not what's happening here. The idea in Section 2 is that we are responding to current day manifestations of past and present decisions that disadvantage minorities and make it so that they don't have equal access to the voting system, right? They're disabled. In fact, we use the word disable in Milligan. We say that's a way in which you see that these processes are not equally open.
Well, let me take a moment to repeat her statement because I know you can get lost in some of it as you're listening to it. She is saying that she's speaking specifically, questioning a lawyer representing Louisiana voters who argued that court-ordered creation of a second majority black district in the state would violate the 14th Amendment. That was the argument before the court. And she said, that majority opinion in the 2023 Supreme Court ruling, which found that Alabama unlawfully diluted the voting power of black people in that state, used the word disabled to describe voters subjected to processes that are not equally open. And she says, what Congress is saying, as if that is happening, Section 2 gives us the tools to determine you've got to fix it. When Congress passed the Americans with Disabilities Act, it was dealing with a situation that a lot of buildings, federal courthouses as well, and state facilities were not accessible to folks with a wheelchair or in any other way. But the issue here now has gotten way beyond that. The Americans for Disability now coming forward and saying, you are taking what is a true legitimate disability when you refer to disabled, and you're basically mocking it. And that is exactly what she's doing. She wants to tie it to race and race only. But that's not the story. It's amazing how this woman, as now a Supreme Court justice, of course, who cannot even describe what a woman is claiming now that black voters are being handicapped because they're disabled. Jackson did acknowledge when she got pressed, it's not race-based. I take your point. But you're saying then that the problem of no access is about race. It's just too bad because you can't have a remedy that relates to race. Can you throw the word race out and just deal with the fact she can't? By the way, there's another issue from the Supreme Court. There was an Idaho trans athlete tried to have the potential landmark SCOTUS case dropped. This is the legal defense trying to save women's sports, and they scored a big win in that Supreme Court battle over transgenders. Again, that was that Idaho trans athlete trying to have that whole case dropped. A federal judge struck down the attempt to dismiss it and ruled the case should proceed. This case now, after going through the Ninth Circuit, which upheld an injunction blocking the state before the Supreme Court agreed to hear the case back in July, again was trying to push it back. The defense team, led by the Idaho Attorney General and the Alliance Defending Freedom Act, said all of this is an attempt to just step over true civil rights, pointing out from day one in office, defending the law has been a top priority because Idaho's daughters deserve fair competition based on biological reality. The district court ruled that after years of litigation, Idaho has the right to present our case to the nation's highest court. That keeps our lawsuit alive, and I will not stop until women and girls are safe to participate and excel in competitive sports. SCOTUS, of course, still trying to decide where we're going, but what they have done at this point is hand a effort to save women's sports. The defense is, of course, going to be looking for a bigger outcome, not just on the particular athlete, but broader. Everyone's watching. Attorneys general from 27 states and the U.S. Territory Guam have signed on in support of the upcoming SCOTUS case to look at it in its entirety. The justices are bound to, supposedly, follow the Constitution, look at the rule of law, not what is fairness in a sports game. But the left has been trying to redefine, rewrite the Constitution from inside out and attacking it from all sides, putting their own verbiage in to make it appear it is constitutional when it's not. And beyond that, just the very fact that an 18-year-old man can appear in a junior varsity volleyball game and knock the hell out of a 14-year-old girl, that should be an obvious call to action that that's wrong. We don't even need to debate it in court. I will remind you, as much as I hate to bring it up again, if Biden had stayed in and won, or if Kamala had won, how far down the road would we be going now? It is frightening. And, of course, do not forget all the illegals who would be sucking off the government teat, taking your money, and while the Democrats are saying, you're not helping the poor Americans, well, you were taking the money from real Americans and giving it to illegals. No, we're not done. We got another segment to go. You don't want to go anywhere. Sit down right where you are. Do not touch that dial.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
We welcome Tom Shaw Realtors, selling, buying, leasing property all over Missouri, almost 100 years. Call Tom, 314-283-5064, shawrealtors.com. Hey, looking for windows that solve your problems and actually add value to your home? Renewal by Anderson. Anderson products increase your home value by at least 15%. Right now, get $329 off every window, $729 off every patio or entry door, and ask about our zero interest plan for 3 years. Renewal by Anderson, the full-service replacement division of Anderson. That's a name you've trusted for more than 122 years. Renewal by Anderson has FiberX frames, 20% stronger than vinyl, built to last. It's why we have more 5-star reviews than anyone in St. Louis. And only Renewal by Anderson backs it up with the nation's best warranty. Schedule your complimentary consultation, rbastl.com, or call 877-WINDOWS, 877-WINDOWS. Renewal by Anderson, superior products, exceptional service. Back pain? Follow me to Esquire Sports Medicine, where they've got your back. Esquire is the oldest sports medicine clinic in St. Louis. Dr. Draghi and his team of chiropractors can get you back to work, back to life without the pain. New patients usually scheduled within 24 hours. 314-644-0885. 644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. LeslieConsulting.com.
This is News Talk STL.
I don't need the pills you take just to feel the spirit moving. Brother, I ain't slept in days all without the drugs you're using. Fed me for the builders you use me for the Great Commission. As it was and always will, as it is, I'm here to witness old time screaming and shouting. Grow up, tell it on the mountain. Faith too strong, be left out and way of trying God.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Democrats' proposal would require Medicaid to pay more for emergency care provided to illegal aliens than Medicaid does for American patients who are disabled, elderly, or children. And this bill would have also allowed California to continue a gimmick that funds its Medicaid for Illegals program. Those are things that we ended, the Trump administration ended, with the passage and the signage of the One Big Beautiful Bill. And it is an undisputed fact, a fact that under the Biden administration, illegal aliens were absolutely receiving taxpayer-funded health care benefits. In fact, in fiscal year 2024, Medicaid costs for emergency services for illegal immigrants skyrocketed by 142% from the previous year to $9.1 billion. That's $9.1 billion taxpayer dollars that were going to emergency services for illegals. Between President Trump's last full fiscal year under his first administration and Joe Biden's last full fiscal year, Medicaid spending on emergency services for illegal immigrants nearly tripled. There was an increase of 196% between 2020 and 2024. And I have a chart here for you, and I'm more than happy to email it to you.
White House spokeswoman Carolyn Leavitt pointing out that how much of your money the Democrats are willing to take and give to illegals. $9 billion plus. Do you not think the American people could use that $9 billion? Now, again, if the illegals are already in our country, I don't want them to starve. I don't want them to be unsheltered, but we have a lot of homeless people already unsheltered. And we have vets who have been denied and kicked out of places to make room for illegals. No one in this country should go to bed hungry, even if you're illegal. No one should go to bed at night without a shelter over their head, even if you're illegal. But how are you going to achieve that? Well, right now, the leftist attitude is take it from Americans, real Americans. It's a Jesse James bank holdup, and nobody is standing between you and Jesse James, except for Larry Connors USA and all our other conservative programs right here on News Talk STL, and all the others that exist around the nation. And you, when Carolyn Leavitt points out how much they are willing to steal out of your pocket to give to those who should not even be in this country, you begin to get the idea. You already know it. I know I'm preaching to the choir many times, but I think sometimes you got to reinforce it. I do it also so you can arm yourself to argue against those civilly who are off their rocker, not understanding what's happening. Oh, we all want to be lovable and generous and everything else. Go hug a tree. Come on. But too many people buy in, eyes wide shut, ears wide open, and nothing inside the head that can discern what's fact and what's fiction. And if they're getting it from one of their favorites that they trust truly, like Whoopi Goldberg, oh, that's the gospel. That's the gospel. Some of you might remember when LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, was president. He did something which got so much national outrage, and this was before the advance of all the technology we have here. What did he do, Larry? Oh, I'm glad you asked. He had some beagle puppies, and he picked one up by the ears, picking up the puppy by the ears. And all the pet lovers went, you can't do that. That's hurting the puppies. And the White House press corps was getting a picture of it. And many of them at that time were not crazy left like they are now, but they could catch quickly the wind blowing through, and that was LBJ should not be picking up puppies by their ears. It might hurt them. At least that was the statement going around. There were some pet doctors who came out and said it's not going to harm them that much. I mean, others said, well, it could. Bottom line is he did it. And you didn't have all this flood of challenging to him. It was already done. Although it stayed in the news for a while. It's in the news cycle. Is that the worst thing LBJ did? No. But it caught everybody's attention. It changed many minds about him. I thought he was a sensitive, nice guy. Others say it reassured me he's exactly what I thought. He's one of those roughshod Texans. Texans. I can't use the word I want to use, but Texans. Which, by the way, when he was running against Goldwater, I was in high school. And a good friend of mine was representing the LBJ movement in the high school and had most everybody in the high school following her. I was representing Goldwater, and I didn't have too many people behind me. And I chose Goldwater, not against LBJ as a Texan, but because I thought Goldwater made more sense in my basic, naive mind. But things that happened then and the way something can happen, can you imagine if Trump did that right now with puppies? I think even some of the MAGA movement would be yelling at him. I do. This is a different world, a different time, and yet we continue. But taking dollars that belong to Americans and giving them to illegals, that's wrong. And it is hurting Americans a lot more and a lot more concerning than picking up puppy dogs by their ears. Carolyn Levitt points out that there are laws on the books where they should not be getting these monies.
I'd also like to add, because some were asking dishonest questions yesterday about emergency rooms. In Southern California, according to healthcare professionals in 2023 under the Biden administration, Southern California's, quote, entire healthcare system was being bombarded with illegal immigrants and forcing American patients to endure longer wait times. In Denver, Colorado, the CEO of Denver Health stated that 8,000 illegal immigrants made 20,000 visits to the city's health system in 2023. Leaving an uncompensated bill totaling over $10 million. So when a legal alien goes to the emergency room, who's paying for it? The American taxpayer. The main safety net hospital in Denver had to turn away patients due to the massive influx of illegal immigrants into the community. And UC Health Hospitals in 2024 reported their system was under stress from an increasing number of migrants. As a result, according to the head of emergency departments and urgent cares across the hospital system, quote, access is impeded for everyone. These are healthcare professionals who dealt with this directly, and there's a lot more where that came from. It is an undisputed fact that Democrats want to give taxpayer-funded healthcare benefits to illegal immigrants, period.
Period. And they do. I mean, she's right. It's undisputed fact. They have been doing that, and they would continue doing that. If only you would just close your eyes and walk away. But we're not going to do that. By the way, there are still many out there that believe that Trump is anti-brown. That's why he's against illegal immigrants. Many of the illegal immigrants that have come across are brown. There are many white. There are many black. Well, he's against them too. He's against illegal. Do you catch that word? Every time you hear a leftist legacy-type media talking about immigrants, don't just let them pass them off as immigrants. They are illegal immigrants. Those that came to our country through Ellis Island were legal immigrants. Those that come across now, when we exercise our quota to bring in more immigrants, we're not keeping people from coming here. We just want them to be able to provide and do something, and we want them to come correctly. And, of course, the issue we have now is they are embedded, the illegals are so embedded in the rest of the minority population, you can't simply pry them out. And even if they are guilty of a crime, unless you get something really solid on them, you got to do sweeps, maybe catch them at a baseball game or something. I don't like that, I will agree, because you also are rounding up illegals that have been doing nothing wrong. They've been living here in the shadows, and they've been getting by. They haven't hurt anyone. They're abiding by our laws. They have, quote, assimilated into our populace, but they're still illegal. We do need to have some reform in that area. I'll be the first to agree with it. But you begin by, as Trump has done, shut the border. 0% crossings recently. 0. Shut the border, which he's done, and then you begin to get the worst of the worst out. But sometimes the worst of the worst are hiding in the midst of the illegals that are doing no harm to anyone. If only the illegals would glow in the dark, those that have committed crimes, then we could just go that direction. But for those who believe that Trump hates brown-skinned people, the White House spokeswoman Carolyn Leavitt said, "Get ready for a big Hispanic party."
Bianca Gracia here, and I have a question. This week, the Democrats have chosen illegals over hard-working Hispanic Americans during Hispanic Heritage Month, causing the White House to cancel the celebration with the president. Is the president open to letting the Hispanics, who overwhelmingly voted for him, have their own fiesta in the White House lawn opposed to the fancy, we don't need fancy smancy, right? You can give us the backyard and we'll fill it all in and have in our own fiesta. Is the president open to that?
I had no idea she was going to ask that question. I just want to preface that. I've never met at you. I just want to say that, but welcome to the briefing room. I love your energy. I can't personally unilaterally promise the South Lawn grounds. We have some construction going on out there, but I know that everyone here views it as very unfortunate we had to cancel or hopefully just reschedule the Hispanic American Heritage Month event, and it's because we are working around the clock during this government shutdown. When the Democrats vote to reopen the government, that event will be back in the planning stages.
Yeah, the Hispanic Party will be back on at the White House lawn. That doesn't say I hate brown people, does it? I often make fun of Trump in the way he talks and that he says something and then repeats himself 4 or 5 times. And I keep thinking, you need to edit that. Somebody needs to pull him aside. Oh, yeah, right, Larry. Somebody's going to pull Trump aside and give him these instructions. Well, it should happen. And there's a comedian that did a great job, and of course referring in part to how Trump would just duplicate his words over and over again. And he did a good job with it. Comedian Shane Gillis.
You don't have to sound like him. All you have to do is get his cadence down. It's very easy. All you have to do is describe something and then say you described it that way. That's it. It's every time.
What a big room this is. I walked in here, I said, wow, what a big room. Austin. A lot of homeless. I walked in here, I said, wow, that's a lot of homeless.
He nailed it, didn't he? I mean, Trump does do stuff like that. Yeah, I'm making fun of Trump. That bother you? Well, I'm sorry. I'm going to do it anyway. It's done. It's on its way to Mars. We can't laugh at ourselves. Come on. Would Trump be happy that I did it? I don't know. And the other part of that is, on that very point, I don't care. We have so many people in so much angst and anger right now. We need to find a little levity and go back to something like that. They even found a way to have some levity, some laughs at the Charlie Kirk Memorial the other day as he was presented our nation's highest civilian order by President Trump posthumously. When Erica said that Charlie loved everyone, even his friends. And Trump said, well, that doesn't sound like the Charlie I know. She said, no, Mr. President. He prayed for everyone. Even, I say his friends, even his enemies. Prayed for his enemies. She said he did not do it in public, but I can attest to the fact that he did. And, of course, there was some applause and laughter at the same time. Find joy. What'd you learn this hour? Class back in section at 6 tomorrow. Remember our pledge, one nation under God.